Good morning, gang. Good morning. Welcome back to this week's altcoin update. First and foremost, remember nothing discussed today is financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is just for educational purposes only. Right, so jumping into today's. So today we've had requests for Sdex or SmartDex, Blur and Sol. And then obviously we can just have a quick look at last week's coverage as well. So last week we covered DOGE and ATOR. So DOGE, as we said last week, it wasn't a place to be looking for new longs. In fact, when did we do the video? It'd been here. And obviously we were having that rejection from that point of control. So obviously the FOMO was very high in the market. Everyone was getting extremely horny about this move. And in the end, it's rejected from the macro point of control once again. Okay, so not the time to be longing into major resistance. And as I said on last week's video, if you start to flip this and start getting above here without a major pullback from this high, then yeah, you can start looking at higher prices, more likely coming up towards that EQ. But until this happens, there's no reason to get overly bullish. Okay, it's still range bound, and it's still range bound within the bottom quarter of the range, never mind half of the range. Okay, so we're still hanging around down here. ATOR was the other one. Now ATOR, if you followed us along last week, then you could have been quite happily sitting in profits right now. Okay, so we're coming down. Last week when we were doing the video, we'd had the initial bounce right here when we were doing the video. The initial bounce from the outside of this consolidation, this range that we were talking about. And if you go back and watch the video, I said right here, I wouldn't be interested in longing. And the reason being is you'd need to see, for me, some structure broken. So based on that low there, the structure realistically would have been there on any meaningful time frame. Okay, so for me, you'd have had to get back above that and then come back for a retest. Then you'd have had the long opportunity. Now, in the end, straight after that video, we came down to the bottom of this local range. We zoom out, look on the 4 hour, we can see this. We came down, we swept the lows, we grabbed the liquidity from down here. Great swing failure pattern. Okay, grab that liquidity and liquidity from back here as well. Grab those stops. In the end, created a new pivot high. If we look into the 30-minute chart here, you can see this. Created a new pivot high, broke the structure, came back into the golden pocket. It's just classic entry. And then obviously since then, you've had effectively a 4-hour trade, and that being a 100% move to the upside. Okay, so yeah, you didn't have to catch the exact bottom. As I said at the time, you wanted to see the strength. And there was the strength, the change of structure locally, a lower time frame. And then you got the nice bounce to the upside. So if you caught that trade, well done. It definitely a pay yourself moment then, coming back up to this structure. And then stops to entry. And now you're in a winning position regardless. Because if price then nukes, well, it stops you back out at entry and you've locked in a TP1. So you're happy days, no problem. If price continues up, then obviously this is your next major cluster to be aware of. Now we can throw on a Fibonacci retracement from top to bottom, and we can see here the bottom of this cluster comes in at the golden pocket. So that, if we get there, would be a solid TP2. Okay, it's just simple. Okay, so you're not taking this long, expecting it to create new highs. Bear in mind, it has broken some major structure on that drop down. Okay, does it mean it's over and it's going to zero? No. Does it mean it's full bull and we're going up to $10? No. It just means now, at the moment, we're stuck between these highs and these lows. What does that mean? Well, we're range bound. Simple as that. Okay, so if you got that, well done. Make sure obviously you've locked in some profit and you just didn't degenerately gamble trying to catch this all the way down and get destroyed. Now, moving on. Sdex. Now, admittedly, I've never looked at, well, Sdex or Blur. So this is brand new to me. I believe this is the whole history. I've used the crypto chart. So first things first, looking at this, just zooming out to the daily. Let's have a look. So if I'm looking in Elliott wave terms, that to me looks like it's a potential for 5 waves up into this high here. Just keeping it really, really basic, not going into major detail with this, but quite simply just saying, here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, anyone that understands Elliott wave theory also knows that wave 5 is the most unpredictable. So it's the hardest one to gauge. Often FOMO comes in 5, and this is where people start longing tops. So does that mean that the top is in here and it's time to roll over? Not necessarily. We can go lower time frame Elliott wave to figure that part out, but I'm not going to go through that right now. However, time for caution. But it's still in an uptrend on all time frames. Okay, so the daily is up, the 3-day is up, the weekly is up, the monthly is up. Okay, so all trends are pointing up. Okay, so while all trends point up, then we still got the greater potential for more upside. However, it's time for caution now based on Elliott wave. So realistically, what you don't want to lose, if you are a bull in this, and let's say you're a hodler and you've not taken profits because you're expecting this to go to $100 or whatever made up number you've been given in your little Discord community, you don't want to lose that level. Quite simply, you don't want to lose that level. In fact, I didn't click that onto the right one, so let's click it onto the right one now. So that level is 0.012095. If you start losing that level, then you are starting to change some local structure. And if that's the case, and you start losing that structure to the downside, and then coming back up, then you've potentially got something like that on your hands. Okay. So realistically, you don't want to lose this structure now. Just because it loses one major structure level, does that mean it's doom and gloom and it is going to fall down? No, it doesn't. It literally could come down here, take this out, and then continue moving up. Continue moving up to new highs. Okay. All depends what happens down at this low here. Okay, it all depends what happens down at this low down here, but that would be the main one to look out for. If it is to continue up, then realistically you don't want daily closures or above down below this level. Okay, but until then, there's not a right lot to say about it. If it does start to break down, then realistically you're probably going to be looking to come back into at least your golden pocket sort of zone. So basically your golden pocket down to your 786. So that would be the key zone. If it is going to start rolling over, you won't want it to be coming any lower than that, because if it starts coming any lower than that, then realistically, you are going to be then looking at these lows getting taken. So if, again, this is big ifs, if this structure is gone, and then you come like that, and then realistically, you'll be looking somewhere down in this region here. And if that region's lost, then you're targeting those lows there. Okay, but for the time being, structure's up. You don't fight against the trend. Until the trend proves you wrong, trade with the trend. Okay, that's effectively what you're looking at right there. There is a possibility that the top's in, but until you start losing that structure, you'll never know. Okay, so that's Sdex. Next one is Blur. Right, okay, so hoping this is the inception, roughly around February this year. Since inception, it's gone down and it's finally started to break some structure to the upside. So daily's up, weekly is up. There's your structure level. Monthly is still, monthly's not up yet. A monthly's obviously just reacted. Now, obviously, depending on what type of trader you are, you might call this a supply zone, a demand zone, or whatever ICT crew call it. Either way, it's effectively for me, this is quite simply you've come into a resistance level. It's like a front run the resistance level. So it's kind of fair game now for me for a pullback. So if you look at it again, we're looking at this on the weekly here. You can see here effectively this is what you've come into. You've come into this cluster here, which is effectively just a range. All you've done is you've come into this range and you've had a rejection, and effectively that's what most order blocks or supply and demand zones are. It's just you've come into a previous consolidation, a previous range, and you're getting a rejection. Now, as we can see right here, we're coming down. So if you are bullish, okay, ideally you want this SR flip here. Now, 1, 2, 3, yep, that's fine, that looks about right. Yeah, okay. If you are bullish, you don't want to lose this zone here. Because if you lose this zone here, then realistically, you are more than likely going to come back down and visit down at these lows down here, which will be around 33 cents. So ideally, it's very key is this level here. Now, from a structural point of view, it's a very thin zone. Okay, very thin move up, very thin zone. From a structural point of view, it's not got the highest probability, but you can wait and see, and you can have a little bit of patience. So what you can do is you can zoom into a lower time frame. I'm looking at this on the daily right now. If you start to see a lower time frame changing structure to the upside, then it might give you the confidence that this is holding. Okay, that's what you want to see. You want to see that sign of strength. Just like what we talked about on ATOR last week. You don't just want to be longing willy-nilly, hoping that you're going to catch it, because it could quite easily just drop through. Okay, so what you want is you want to see that sign of strength. Once you get that sign of strength, then you can start to look at, well, perhaps this range is holding. And if this range is holding, then your next step would be the EQ. And then if it gets beyond the EQ, then you'll be looking up at your range highs. Okay, range highs, you'll be looking to take profit on your longs and potentially look for shorts. Okay, so that's effectively how I'd be looking at this blur. If this doesn't hold, then as I say, realistically, you're coming back down into this cluster here, so you're looking down at that 33 cents. Okay, and if that doesn't hold, then yeah, you're dropping further down. But realistically, you want to be holding above this 33 cents. This ideally, if no strength here, then this zone here. And effectively that says this, it's not actually overly complicated when something's so new like this. Finally, Sol, still getting requested time and time again. So it'd be rude not to. So Sol did change some good structure. It's had a good run up. Okay, so it didn't react after the initial point of control reaction. Obviously, the trade that we gave, God, this is going back in July, got the nice move to the downside. It continued its uptrend, and we are where we are right now. So we're in the zone now for kind of a pullback territory, which we can already see. So yeah, it's a bit hindsight spitty, I know. But we can see we've started to break some major structure here. Okay. So once again, this is similar to the other coins. If you come back test this, and you get that perfect SR flip, and you continue, you drive up, then realistically, you can start looking at higher prices and moving through this thin zone here. If that happens, then realistically, I'll be looking up at this value area high. Do we have any more confluence at that value area high? We've probably got a golden pocket if I was a betting man. There you go. So, golden pocket. So if you get this, let's just clear this up so it looks a little bit cleaner. Yeah, messy fibs. There we go. If you get some sort of SR flip down at this region, and again, big if, you want to see that strength. You don't just want to be blindly longing this zone. You don't want to be leaving limit orders down here and blindly longing it up and for the best, because it could literally just run straight through. But if you get that perfect SRE test and you see that sign of strength down here, then realistically, this can travel up. And then, once again, you'd be looking up at this zone here. At this zone, that would certainly be a take profit on longs. And potentially an opportunity to hedge out. You've got your value area high, you've got your golden pocket, you've got confluence. There is actually more here as well. So that's effectively what you'd be looking at to the upside. Now, what if you don't get this perfect SR flip? Well, if you don't get this perfect SR flip, then unfortunately, anyone that's been FOMO longing in this whole region here is going to have a very brutal surprise. Because if this doesn't happen, and you start to roll down, coming under here, then realistically, you were coming back down to this sort of level here, so down towards your $25 sort of level. If you're bullish, then you really need this to work as an SR flip. Similar to this level here, you need to work this as an SR flip. Once again, you want to see that sign of strength. You don't just want to be blindly longing down there. If you get that, then you've potentially got a long setup. If you don't get that, then we're coming lower and we're coming back into this cluster down here. So really, it's quite simple. The trading at the moment is effectively, it's not overly complex. Okay, if this, then that. Right, if you've learned something today, hit that like button. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. And don't forget to hit that bell notification, because it's pointless watching these videos back 2 weeks later. Otherwise, you miss moves like ATOR. Okay? Right, and until next time, gang, as you were, bye-bye.